So, welcome all to the part 2 from the series Draupadi. We will begin our session by offering prayers. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 8, Text 5. साधयित्वा जातशत्रो स्वं राज्यं कितवैर्हृतं घातयित्वा सतो राज्ञा कचस्पर्शाक्षतायुष साधयित्वा जातशत्रो स्वं राज्यं कितवैर्हृतं घातयित्वा सतो राज्ञा कचस्पर्शाक्षतायुष साधयित्वा जातशत्रो स्वं राज्यं कितवैर्हृतं घातयित्वा सतो राज्ञा कचस्पर्शाक्षतायुषः. Translation. The clever Duryodhana and his party cunningly usurped the kingdom of Yudhishthira, who had no enemy. By the grace of the Lord, the recovery was executed, and the unscrupulous kings who joined with Duryodhana were killed by him. Others also died, their duration of life having decreased for their rough handling of the hair of the queen Draupadi. Purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. In the glorious days or before the advent of the age of Kali, the Brahmanas, the cows, the women, the children, and the old men were properly given protection. The protection of the Brahmanas maintains the institution of Varna and Ashrama, the most scientific culture for attainment of spiritual life. The protection of cows maintains the most miraculous form of food, that is, milk for maintaining the finer tissues of the brain for understanding higher aims of life. The protection of women maintains the chastity of society, by which we can get a good generation for peace, tranquility, and progress of life. The protection of children gives the human form of life its best chance to prepare the way of liberty from material bondage. Such protection of children begins from the very day of begetting a child by the purificatory process of Garbhadhana Samskara, the beginning of pure life. 5. The protection of the old men gives them a chance to prepare themselves for better life after death. This complete outlook is based on factors leading to successful humanity as against the civilization of polished cats and dogs. The killing of the above mentioned innocent creatures is totally forbidden because even by insulting them, one loses one's duration of life. In the age of Kali, they are not properly protected, and therefore, the duration of life of the present generation has shortened considerably. In the Bhagavad Gita, it is stated that when the women become unchaste for want of proper protection, there are unwanted children called Varnashankara. To insult a chaste woman means to bring about disaster in the duration of life. Dushasana, a brother of Duryodhana, insulted Draupadi, an ideal chaste lady, and therefore the miscreants died untimely. These are some of the stringent laws of the Lord mentioned above. ॐ अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनाशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः. श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपा कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं. वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरोः श्रीयुतापदकमलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातां सहगणा रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनासहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपदा सहगणा ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपासिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः हे कृष्णा करुणा सिन्धो दीनबन्धु जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिकान्त राधाकान्त नमोऽस्तु ते तप्तकाञ्चन गौराङ्गी राधे बृन्दावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये जय श्रीकृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानन्द श्री अद्वैता गदाधर शिवासादि गौरभक्तवृन्द हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे. Hare Krishna. So we are reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 8. And in this particular purport, Srila Prabhupada is giving us the basis of a stable social society. We see in the purports of Srila Prabhupada throughout Srimad Bhagavatam, Prabhupada speaks at so many places about transcendence, about the nature of the spiritual life, etc. But equal importance Prabhupada gives to having a stable social order. This is because a stable society is a platform based on which the spiritual life can be sustained. That is why in many places in Srimad Bhagavatam, Srila Prabhupada in his purports writes and describes about the importance of having a structured social order. And what is Prabhupada speaking about here? The basics of progressive human civilization lies in protection of these five people. Who are these five? Prabhupada is saying about five people have to be protected. One is the Brahmanas, second, the cows, third, women, fourth, children, and fifth are the old people. So, why are these five worthy of protection? It's not because they are weak, it's because they're very important, because they're very precious. A Brahmana, a Brahmana has the capacity to guide the entire society. A society that is not guided by a qualified Brahmana is misdirected. Hence, Brahmanas have to be protected. A Brahmana did not necessarily mean a person who is born in the caste of a Brahman, but a Brahmana means a Brahma Janati iti Brahmana. One who is conversed with spiritual knowledge is a Brahmana. So, such Brahmanas need to be protected because they're precious. And next, cows. Cows have to be protected. Why are cows necessarily be protected? It's not again because they're weak. We have many weak animals which are so fragile, like the deer, but scriptures are not telling about deer, they're telling about cows. Why cows? Why cows are so precious at the spiritual level? Because they're very dear to Krishna, but even from the point of view, from the for the prospect of the what is good for human society, the milk of the cows, it nourishes the finer tissues of the brain, and when these finer tissues of brain are nourished, it helps one cultivate spiritual knowledge, which is the very purpose of human life. That is why a cow is considered very precious, and cow deserves all protection. The society in which cows are protected, loved, and cared for, that society flourishes truly. And the society in which cows are ill-treated and and killed and slaughtered, such society undergo degradation. We see these days, the reaction to such sinful activities going on. The COVID crisis that we are facing today is because of this reckless actions by human societies. It's just the reaction. So women are precious because it is said that a child develops all his samskaras by the time he is 5 years old. And the first school of a child is the lap of the mother. And the womb of the mother is a place where 90% of the samskaras of the child is imp- uh, are taken, are born. It is said that 90% of the samskaras of a child are formed within the 9 months of the womb, of the child stay in the womb. So that is how important a mother is to the child. When the mother is emotionally happy, protected, and and is surrounded by a very safe atmosphere, a loving atmosphere, a stable family, then the progeny that are born from such a mother, they become such great leaders of the society, who are themselves stable, pure, with integrity, great character, nobility of thought, and a vision for a prosperous world. At the same time, when the same woman is emotionally ill treated, we see the same example in our own Mahabharat. Gandhari, she was emotionally so injured. She felt so envious when she was pregnant. And she was burning with envy. And when she heard that Kunti has already given birth, she was fuming with envy, and with that envy, she struck her womb. And as a result, was born, Duryodhana and all the Kauravas, who were all personifications of envy. So the women have to be protected, not just physically, but also emotionally, because in their womb lies the future of this world. And next, fourth are the children. The children have to be protected because the society, the whole, the future of the world is the children today. That is why children's education is given utmost importance in cultured societies. Wherever the children are given good education right from the beginning, there the society prospers. Okay, that in itself is a big topic, so we'll not get into the details of it. And next are the old men. So the old people, the elderly people, the Varishtha Vaishnavas, they have to be really taken care of and given protection, not just physically, again, emotionally, and also a proper ambience have to be provided for them to prepare themselves for their next life. This is caring for the elderly, not just merely having some old age homes where they are entertained in different ways and being misdirected from the what is the goal of life. So the elderly have to be taken care of in all levels. So this is caring for the society and providing a foundational platform for the culture of spiritual life, for cultivating spiritual life. So what we see today in the modern world is there's so many organizations coming up, worldwide organization working for peace, world peace. But that's probably what we are seeing is it's a it's a repair work. But what Prabhupada is speaking about here in this purport is a foundational work. We work at this root level, we work on this foundation, we laid the basis for a prosperous world altogether. So, especially Prabhupada ends in this purport by saying that how the whole Kuru clan, the reactions of insulting or disrespecting women. There are stringent laws of nature. The laws of nature are very stringent. There is reaction, especially these five members of the society who are supposed to be protected. They are insulted or ill treated. There are massive reactions. Nature gives such reactions. This is what we see in the Mahabharata. In Mahabharata, actually, the whole what happens at the Dyuta Sabha, it's the very heart of Mahabharata, what we are going to discuss today. Actually, it is said in Ramayana, Vibhishana's surrender is the heart of Ramayana, and the disrobing of Draupadi in the Dyuta Sabha, this is the heart of Mahabharata, because so many lessons are derived, and what is actually dharma is ascertained in this aspect. And the topmost aspect is surrender to the Supreme Lord. That is so beautifully portrayed in this particular pastime. So, Yeah. So Draupadi's humiliation has brought about the greatest disaster to the entire Kuru clan. The Kuru clan, the Kuru Vamsha, was such a mighty Vamsh, mighty clan of Kshatriyas. The whole clan was wiped out. Why? Because of respecting Draupadi, who was, as Prabhupada stated, she is an ideal chaste lady. What were her ideal and chaste qualities we'll be discussing in the next chapter. Today we will focus more on the pastimes. Yeah. So a quick recap of what we have done last week. So last week we have learned something about Mahabharat. This Mahabharat as a scripture. It is the history of Greater India. We have learned about the appearance of Draupadi. Her name is Yajnaseni. She has appeared from the Yajna Kund. And we have learned about the Swayamvara, Draupadi's Swayamvara, how Arjuna has won her hand at the Swayamvara. And then we have seen how she later went on to marry the five Pandavas, the reasons behind it, and how her marriage was sanctioned by the great sage Vyasadeva, and it was meant to be because it was a benediction given by Lord Shiva. And all these pastimes we have discussed last week. And we also discussed about how she was such a great devotee of Lord Krishna, that we discussed about how she has tied Krishna's finger with the cloth. And in fact, with that, she has bound him with the rope of her love and devotion. So we will go ahead with that today. So we will go back to Rajasuya sacrifice. So Rajasuya sacrifice is Rajasuya, the name, the Sanskrit term means that which gives birth to the Raja. So Yudhishthir Maharaj, with the blessings of the Supreme Lord Krishna, has performed the Rajasuya Yajna. And what was this Rajasuya Yajna? Such a great description was given. Kings from all over the world have come to express their submission to Maharaj Yudhishthir. And the Agrapuja, Lord Krishna was worshipped. And Yudhishthir Maharaj has received such opulent gifts during this sacrifice. And do you know who was given the in charge of collecting the gifts? Unfortunately, it was Duryodhana. So Duryodhana was at the counter of receiving the gifts received by Yudhishthir Maharaj. And with every gift that he was receiving, his envy was just flaring up. It was just shooting up more and more and more. And so after the entire Rajasuya sacrifice was over, worse still, Duryodhana was so flabbergasted by the whole opulence of the Pandavas. And he was seething in envy. And at that time, he was just walking in the Maya Sabha, the Sabha that was created by Maya Danav, where the whole Sabha had a lot of optical illusions. The optical illusions that he could not differentiate between what was the floor and what is water. And he thought it was floor, and he stepped into water. And he thought it was water, and he stepped on the floor. In that way, he just made a little fool of himself by walking on this floor of Maya Sabha. So witnessing all this, Draupadi laughs. And when Draupadi laughed, Yudhishthir Maharaj kind of tried to stop her from laughing. But Krishna, who was present there, told her to continue laughing. So why did Draupadi laugh? So, for example, if any of us, if we see somebody trip and fall down, even people like us, we feel sorry for them and we try to lift them up. Draupadi laughed. So is it wrong? So the answer is, Draupadi laughing here it's not it's a humanly, and it's not recommended, but it is understandable. Understandable, because Duryodhana is such an envious person and he was so arrogant and he always used to brag about himself. And everybody knows about his evil mindedness. And when such a person actually trips and falls down, the human psychology is that it serves him right. So Draupadi laughing at Duryodhana in this particular context is understandable. It's showing the human side of such a great personality. So this is the glory of the Shastras. The Shastras saying that somebody is virtuous does not mean they're beyond any mistakes. It's not, because Shastric understanding is not black and white. There are also gray zones. So just because a person is glorious, a great devotee of great virtue, does not mean that person never makes any mistakes. And in this case, Draupadi, what she made was not even a mistake. It was a human side. It's a human nature. So it is understandable, may not be recommended. It's not a saintly action, but it's a human nature. It's a humanly act. So, and why Krishna did allow this? Probably, it is because there are some people who say, why did Krishna allow Draupadi to laugh in this situation? So Krishna is like an expert doctor. You see, when I'll give this example, a dentist, when he's checking the teeth of a patient, he takes a probe, he turns back, and he hits that probe on the tooth. That's called percussion, technically. So if there is some kind of an underlying disease in that tooth, the patient says, ah. So that means there is an underlying pathology that is going on in that tooth. And if he does not react, that means the tooth is healthy. Similarly, whenever there is a person who is having some underlying pathology of envy and such anarthas brewing up, Krishna gives a stroke to just check how they are reacting, to give a vent to all their anarthas to come out, to express themselves so that they are purified. This is what Indra also did to, Lord Krishna did to Indra. For example, in the Vrindavan, in the Vraja Leela, so Indra was having this pride within his heart that he was the supplier of the rains, and in a way, he's a controller. But Krishna kind of infatuated his pride by stopping the Indra Puja, and in place of that, starting a Govardhan Puja. So, because of which Indra's pride flared up, and he wanted to really show his power, his prowess. And what he did as a result of that, he tried to destroy the whole of Vrindavan. But then, uh, when Krishna lifted the Govardhan hill, he soon came to his senses. He rectified himself. This is the difference between Devata and a Daitya. Everybody makes mistakes, but the willingness to rectify when time comes is what makes a person, virtuous or devotee. So Indra very soon rectified his mistake. He surrendered to Krishna and expressed that, I am sorry, my dear Lord, please forgive me. And there were beautiful prayers. But Duryodhana, on the other hand, what he did out of envy to the out of his seething envy towards the Pandavas, it's not something small. It was humongous. It was a disproportionate display of his envy. And even after being given many opportunities, time and again, in the entire Mahabharat, he did not forget surrendering. He could not bend down. He could not mend his ways. As a result of which, he called for the destruction of himself and for his entire family. So here, Krishna is playing the role of the doctor by letting Draupadi laugh. And what happened later on, we will see that. So at the end of Rajasuya sacrifice, interestingly, after the whole uh, big pompous celebration was over, all the guests were leaving. They were going back to their own places. All the great rishis, the kings, and all the invitees are returning to their own places. At that time, Vyasadev, while leaving, he tells Yudhishthir Maharaj, he tells a forecast. He foretells the future. My dear Yudhishthir Maharaj, I'm very happy for this Rajasuya Yajna that you have performed. It's all auspicious. But I want to tell you about the future. Very soon, the whole Kuru Vamsh, the Kuru clan, is going to be destroyed, and you will be instrumental in that. Saying that, Vyasadev leaves. At this, Yudhishthir Maharaj, he feels devastated at heart. At that time, he makes up his mind that, oh, oh my God, what future is awaiting us. So let me not, at least let me not be the cause of that such a destruction. And from today, I take a vow that I will never go against the wishes and the desires of my elders. I will always respect them, and I will try to abide with them and align myself with their wishes. This is what he takes a vow internally. So after this, uh, Duryodhana goes back home and he spent sleepless nights. He couldn't sleep, just thinking about the opulence of the Pandavas and the humiliation by Draupadi. He couldn't just digest it. After spending sleepless nights, he goes to Dhritarashtra and he starts ventilating. He starts telling, "My dear father, I'm unable to sleep thinking about the opulence these Pandavas are enjoying. Oh my God, what were the gifts that Yudhishthir Maharaj has received? The precious jewels, the high breed of horses, the elephants that we've never heard of, the shawls, and and every time 1 lakh brahmanas were fed, there used to be a conch that used to blow, and that I could hear the conch blowing every few seconds. And when the conch used to blow, it used to shatter my heart. What was the opulence of Pandavas? What charity they were giving? What gifts they were receiving? What pomp? What glory? I cannot stand this. I want that whole Indraprastha back. I want it for myself, and I want to take revenge, avenge for the humiliation that I had gone through. So, my dear father, please invite Pandavas for a gambling match. Shakuni Mama will play on our side, and inviting them for the gambling match, I want to win over all that wealth for good. And there's a big conversation that goes on between Dhritarashtra and Duryodhana. Duryodhana keeps on telling that call them for the gambling match. Dhritarashtra tries to desist, but Duryodhana tells, "My dear father, if you do not call the Pandavas for the gambling match, I am going to end my life. I'm going to commit a suicide." So Dhritarashtra, he was always, you know, had this soft nature for his, soft side for his son. From the very beginning itself, he gave into the weakness of saying yes to Duryodhana at the wrong times. So this time the same thing happened, and he calls Vidura and tells, "Please go and invite the Pandavas for the gambling match." And Vidura was also forced to go and perform this task for them. So Vidura goes to the Pandavas, and he invites them. All of you, you're all invited to Hastinapur for a celebration, and the celebration also comprises of a dice match, a gambling match. So Yudhishthir Maharaj, he was initially very reluctant to gamble, because it was not one of the great virtues, and and also he knew that all these evil-minded people like Shakuni, Duryodhana, and all of them are there, and they are hatching some really big time plans to get over them. So Yudhishthir Maharaj is hesitant, but still, as I said, he has taken that vow to never go against the wishes of his elders and align himself with the wishes of his of the elderly elders of his family. He says, "Okay, we will come." So in this way, he says okay for the invitation to come to Hastinapur as such. So Yudhishthir Maharaj, along with all the Pandavas and Draupadi, they all go to Hastinapur. They're received with great celebration and joy. And at that time, after having rested for a day or so, there was a lot of festivity that was around, and a lot of celebration. And the next day, when they enter the sabha, There was great, a big hall that was entirely decorated with all canopies and great pillars and beautiful wall decorations and hangings, whole setup done. And in between the whole big hall was the the game of gambling set up. So Shakuni comes and uh, invites Yudhishthir Maharaj for the gambling. So at this time, Shakuni, in fact, not just invites him, but he challenges him. So at this point, Yudhishthir Maharaj could not decline. So because a Kshatriya, when invited for a gambling match, he cannot decline. That is against Kshatriya dharma. So with the intention of aligning himself with the uh, desires of the elders and not to invite any fight, and also accepting the challenge, being a Kshatriya, Yudhishthir Maharaj says yes for the gambling, and he sits down for the gambling. And uh, and he thinks that he was playing the match with Duryodhana, but to his astonishment, it is Shakuni who is playing on behalf of Duryodhana. So it was right from the very first beginning, it was injustice all the way. So Shakuni on one side and Yudhishthir Maharaj on the other side, they began the gambling match. And those of you who are well versed with Mahabharat, they know, you all know that this particular uh, dice that Shakuni is using, it's not ordinary. It listens to him because they are kind of uh, Shakuni induced some magic in them because they're made of the bones of his father. So they kind of listen to his desires, and whatever Shakuni wants, that number comes on the dice. It's a magic dice. And Yudhishthir Maharaj, on the other hand, so he sat down for gambling, and he started staking. So first he staked. The first thing that he staked was the treasures, the treasures that he had, the all the opulence, the money, then the horses and elephant, and all his soldiers, and the Indraprastha, the entire kingdom. Everything he staked one by one, and he lost everything because Shakuni, because of his evil nature and using those dice, he looted everything from the Pandavas. And not just money, not just wealth, not just the soldiers, not just the whole kingdom, not just the entire palace. He summoned him to stake even his own brothers. So Yudhishthir Maharaj went ahead and he staked. He started staking Nakul first, and then followed by Sahadev. And then he lost even Bhima and Arjuna, one after the other. And all of them turned out to be slaves of the Kauravas. And after all the four of them, he staked himself. At this point, the whole Sabha was in tears. Oh, what what these Kauravas are up to? What are they trying to do? Why they are inviting their own misfortune by doing like this? So Shakuni did not stop there, and he he challenged Yudhishthir for staking himself, and Yudhishthir staked himself, and again he lost, and he enslaved himself. He became a slave. So all the five Pandavas, who were the rulers of the whole world. See, Yudhishthir Maharaj in the Rajasuya Yajna, he was crowned the emperor of the entire world. He was a samrat. Emperor is a samrat. And his wife, Draupadi, she is the empress. Yeah, she's the empress. And she was a crowned empress. And she was, being humiliated here. So after Yudhishthir Maharaj was staked, then the evil-minded Duryodhana, he tells Yudhishthir Maharaj, now you have to stake your wife Draupadi. So this is just a manifestation of the heights of evil mindedness of Duryodhana. Actually, Draupadi, being the Rajapatnika, she's equivalent to a mother. According to Chanakya Niti, there are seven mothers. Who are the seven mothers? Atma Mata, one's own mother. Then Atma Mata, Guru Patni, the wife of the spiritual master. Then Brahmani, the wife of a Brahmana. Rajapatnika, the wife of the Raja, the king. Then Dhenur Dhatri Tatha Prithvi. Dhenur, the cow, Dhatri, a nurse, and Tatha Prithvi. Prithvi is Mother Earth. All these seven are considered to be mothers. So every person has seven mothers. So in this way, Rajapatnika, the wife of the king, is considered to be a mother. So Draupadi is, equivalent to a mother. She's the empress of this whole world. And she's equivalent to a mother. And towards such a mother, what was the humiliation and disrespect this evil-minded Duryodhana has planned, and the kind of disrespect that happened at Hastinapur, which is the current day Delhi. It is a humiliation which the world has never seen, the history has never seen in the past or in the present. That was what he plotted. And with this evil intentions, he challenged Yudhishthir for the gambling and for staking uh, Draupadi. So Yudhishthir Maharaj at this point, he had to say yes. So many acharyas give different reasons why Yudhishthir Maharaj had to say yes uh, in this whole assembly of, no, it is called Asat Sabha. It is not a Sabha. Sabha comes from the word Sabhyata. Kunti Maharani calls this whole Dyuta Sabha as Asat Sabha because it is not the member of the cultured people. It is not a meeting of the cultured people. It's a gathering of evil-minded Duryodhana, Dushasana, and such Shakuni, and all these horrible people coming together. So it was called an Asat Sabha. So Yudhishthir Maharaj was, brought to a situation where he had to stake Draupadi. He stakes Draupadi and he plays the dice. And again he loses. So Duryodhana, with his wicked laughter, he calls Pratigami. Pratigami, come here, go and bring Draupadi from her chambers. Yeah, tell her that she is now the slave of the Kauravas and she can be dealt with in whichever way we want her to be dealt with. So go and bring her here. So Pratikami, he goes to the chambers of Draupadi and tells Draupadi. And Draupadi asks, why are you here? And he tells, with his head hung in shame, my dear mother, your Yudhishthir Maharaj has lost you. He has staked you in the gambling match and he has lost you. Now you are declared the slave of the Kauravas. So by this, Draupadi was shattered. And she gathers herself back and she tells a very important thing to Pratikami. Pratikami, everybody goes through difficult times. But it is important. Yeah, please listen carefully. He tells Pratigami, every person goes through difficult times, trials, and tribulations. I am not afraid of that. But despite all these trials and tribulation, one who stands by dharma, to that person, all auspiciousness is certainly ordained. So I want to know what is dharma. Yudhishthir Maharaj has already staked himself. So how could he stake me? Please go and find out what is dharma. Because in that assembly are sitting the great dharmajnas like Bhishma, Drona, Kripacharya. They should be knowing what is dharma. So please find out what is dharma. So Pratigazmi goes back and he goes and tells this at the assembly. This is what Draupadi has asked me to find out. So Duryodhana mocks and he says that, she is a slave and she has no right to question. Go bring her. And again, Pratigami goes back to Draupadi again and he tells, "Oh, my dear mother, the Kuru clan is very close to its destruction. They seem to be very adamant, inviting their own great misfortune. They want you to come." Then she says, "Pratigami, I cannot come. Please go and find out and ascertain to me what is dharma. And I cannot come because I am currently in my ekavastra, that, I'm in my cycle. So I cannot come to the assembly." She says that. And Pratikami goes back again to the assembly and he repeats what is told. And Duryodhana at this, he mocks at Pratikami. He says, "This Pratikami, he fears the Gada of Bhim. That is why he is not going and bringing Draupadi." And he tells Dushasana, "Go and bring that arrogant lady. She is our slave now, and drag her to the assembly." So Dushasana now goes to Draupadi's chambers. And when he goes to Draupadi's chambers, and Draupadi, even before asking, "Why have you come here?" Dushasana had the audacity to actually hold the hair of Draupadi and drag her into the assembly. And Draupadi, she was initially so shattered. She was helpless. And she actually approaches the different dasis for protection who are there in her chambers. And the dasi were all helpless and their head was hung in shame. They couldn't say a word. So Dushasana dragged her by her hair. And as he dragged her, she was going through so much pain. She was devastated at heart. She was angry, and at the same time, she was in such a miserable state. And in that piteous condition, she told Dushasana, "Oh, Dushasana, what are you doing? How can you take me to that assembly where all the people who are sitting there are equal to my fathers? You cannot do this. And I am in my Ekavastra, in the period of my cycle, and this is not the time for me to come and appear there. How can you do this?" And Dushasana, such an evil minded and arrogant person, and he said that, "You are now our dasi, our slave, whether you are ekavastra or vivastra, whether you are on one cloth or no clothes, how does it make a difference?" Saying this with a wicked laughter, he pulled her, he pulled her through into the assembly. And when she entered the assembly hall in that pain, she's even started in goading in between. She told Dushasana, "You're inviting your own death. You do not know the might of the Pandavas." Saying this, but Dushasana did not pay any heed. Said Vinasha Kale Viparita Buddhi. He took her and, he dragged her into the assembly and he left her in that assembly hall. And Draupadi coming to the assembly, the Asat Sabha, the Dyuta Sabha, when she entered there was silence all over. Vidura had warned all the Kauravas, "Don't do this. If you are doing this, you are inviting great misfortune about for yourself." Draupadi is, she's Atma Yonij. Oh, Atma Yonija, that is, sorry, Agni Yonij. That is, sorry, Ayonija. She is not a normal person. She is born from the fire. And she's such a great chaste lady. If you're trying to do anything towards her, you're going to invite great misfortune about for yourself and for your whole clan. And Dushasan does not pay any heed to that. So they don't heed to Vidura's warnings. They go about inviting their own destruction in such a rapid way. So Draupadi comes to the assembly, and in pain, she looks at everybody, and she looks at Bhishma, who's sitting there, and she asks him, "Bhishma Dev, my dear father, what is dharma? Please ascertain what is dharma. How could I be staked when Yudhishthir has staked himself and he has become a slave? How could he stake me? Please ascertain what is dharma. I want to know what is dharma." So Bhishma Dev could not speak a word. He said that, at this, in such a situation, you're asking me what is dharma. It speaks about your great virtues, Draupadi, but I am helpless. Dharma is so subtle that in this situation it cannot be ascertained. He tells two things. Oh, Draupadi, you know uh, the scriptures say that, you're like, as such, when somebody is enslaved, a person is independent. At the same times, uh, at the same time, he tells that, uh, a woman is never, the scriptures say the women are never independent. She is always a part of, and independent of her husband. So it is both ways. She is independent as a person. No, she could not be staked in that way, if you see in that sense. But a woman is never independent of her husband. So if Yudhishthir Maharaj is not, I mean, she's not I mean, she's not any different from Yudhishthir Maharaj. Wife and husband are one; they cannot be different. So in that way, you are indeed, you have been enslaved. So Bhishma says, now it is very difficult to ascertain what is dharma. So as she's saying this, as Bhishma Dev said this, Vikarna, out of the 100 Kauravas, one Kaurava who had, little maturity, he gets up. Vikarna, he gets up and he says, I want to say something to the Sabha. Please set Draupadi free. I Because just as Yudhishthir Maharaj has his, I mean, just as Yudhishthir Maharaj owns Draupadi, similarly, all the five Pandavas have their authority over Draupadi. She's the wife of all the five husbands. So it has to be a decision by all the five. So it is not Yudhishthir Maharaj alone could take a decision and stake her and lose her. So since it could not happen by the agreement of all the five husbands, it is invalid. So she has to be technically set free. So when Vikarna was speaking logic and dharma in this way to set Draupadi free, then stands up, the most brutal person. Who is he? Karna. He stands up and he starts saying that, Vikarna, you're such a fool. You're still a child. So you have to keep your mouth shut. When big people like Bhishma, Drona, and Kripacharya, they don't have any problems and they are themselves not able to ascertain what is dharma, who are you to come and speak in between? Yeah, you are. Uh, and he goes on saying that Shastras have never recommended that a woman gets married to more than one husband. But this lady, Draupadi, she married five husbands. What arrogance Karna had in this statement. See, Draupadi's marriage was sanctioned by Vyasadev, by the Supreme Lord Krishna himself, and with the benediction of Lord Shiva. And he tries to blaspheme all of them and all of their sanction by using language like this. It was, and why Karna behaved in such an evil way is because, not just because of the humiliation he went through during the Swayambara, that Draupadi said, I don't want to marry a Sutaputra. It's not because of that. It is because of his association, constant association with the evil-minded Duryodhana, that poisoned him in such a way that he behaved in such a evil way. He started using, he started saying, "You shut up. You're such a fool." And then he goes on saying that the Shastras say that a woman should marry only one husband, but look at this Draupadi. She married five husbands. So that is, she's technically a prostitute. He calls her a prostitute in front of the whole assembly. And he says that, no, and for them, it does not matter whether she's wearing clothes or not. And so she has to be stripped naked. And not just her, all the Pandavas have to be stripped naked, and so should be Draupadi. So this whole disrobing of Draupadi, the whole evil idea was given by Karna. So when he said that, all the Pandavas have removed their upper garment and they have put it in front of them. And Dushasan, taking this as an opportunity, he goes towards Draupadi and he tries to pull her sari. And the moment he tries to pull, she immediately takes shelter of Krishna in her heart, in the very core of the heart. So Krishna is not like, there are many different acharyas explain in different ways that Draupadi goes first to Bhishma, Drona for help, and then she goes to the Pandavas for help. Later, she holds it. She tries to help herself, and and finally she tries to hold her pallu with her teeth, and finally, nothing works, and then she puts her hands up and surrenders to Krishna. Hey Govinda, please come and help me. But very clearly, it is written in Mahabharata that the moment, no, this way of explanation is for us, for normal people like us to understand that Krishna is our surrender. No one other than Krishna can help us at the time of need. To explain this point to us, this is how it has been explained by Vaishnavacharyas. That we put our faith in LIC agents. Our relatives, families, our investments, our assets, and we try to take shelter of all of them. But at the time of crisis, nothing can really help us. Only thing that can help us is Krishna. So to explain this point, this is the way that has been explained by some acharyas. But actually, Draupadi is a Mahabhagavat devotee of the Lord. She was a pure devotee of the Lord. So she did not go for other shelters. The moment Dushasana has held her sari, that very moment she took shelter of Krishna. And immediately she cried out to Krishna, Hey Krishna, Hey Govinda, Hey Madhava, Pahimam, please help me. She really cried out from the core of her heart. And as Dushasana tried to pull her sari and tried to disrobe her, immediately Krishna has appeared, not in personal form, but in a different way, in an aprakat way. And then he has supplied her unlimited amounts of sari. The Dushasana was pulling and pulling and pulling, and Krishna was supplying unlimited sari for Draupadi, and he always kept her covered. And Dushasana, tired of pulling and pulling and pulling the sari, finally, he was exhausted that he just fell down on the ground. And seeing this entire scenario, everybody was weeping and crying when this whole thing was going on, except for four people. Who were those four? Duryodhana, Dushasana, Karna, and Shakuni. They were the four, who did not have an iota of regret for what was happening. In fact, they were enjoying the whole thing. So Dushasana fell down on the ground, exhausted. So Draupadi was protected in this way at the time of her greatest need. And after this whole episode, again she continued her question to Bhishma Dev. My question is still not answered. Please ascertain what is dharma. So Bhishma Dev says, Oh Draupadi, all glories to you. You're so virtuous. In this kind of a difficult situation, such a painful situation, such a humiliating situation, such a trying situation, you're still asking to ascertain what is dharma. No wonder you are the patni of such dharmajna, of Yudhishthir Maharaj. So he says that whoever has, the ways of dharma are very subtle. And I have to say that who have power, who are in power, they are the people who decide what is dharma. This is how Bhishma Dev expresses his inability. And who is in power? Duryodhana and Dushasana. So when he said this, you know, Bhishma Dev, so when this whole thing happened, Bhima came up and he said in anger, all of you listen to me. What evil deed this Dushasan has performed, he will pay for it. In the battlefield, I'm going to rip open the chest of Dushasan and I'm going to drink his blood. And this I take a vow. And when Bhima said this, the whole assembly was shaken. Bhima taking such a vow, and everybody knew about the power of Bhima. And when Draupadi again asked Bhishma Dev to ascertain what is dharma, he expressed his helplessness and saying that whoever has power, they decide what is dharma. When he said that, Duryodhana started laughing. He started laughing in a very wicked way, trying to show to people that, I am the in charge of dharma here. And when he, with that evil laugh and wicked laughter, he looked at Draupadi and he looked at Bhima and he showed his thigh. He showed his thigh to Draupadi, coming, telling indirectly, come and sit here. So when he said that, Bhima got totally enraged. He was shaken with anger, with bloodshot eyes. And he said, I take a vow here at this moment, in the midst of this entire assembly. If I have to take, and I take the vow that in the Ranabhumi, in the battlefield, I am going to break the thigh of Duryodhana with my gada. And if I don't fulfill my vow, I am not entitled to take the path of my ancestors. He takes this fierce vow. And when he started taking these vows, there was, all the people who are in favor of dharma, they all felt very, uh, you know, jubilant. And at the same time, when Bhima took this vow, all, in the courtyard of the whole Hastinapur, of this Asad Sabha, the foxes, the jackals started howling, and they were all evil omens. There was howling of jackals, and lot of bad or evil omens started appearing. So this time Gandhari and Dhritarashtra started getting very insecure. This, what is happening is not good. And even it is said that Dhritarashtra started feeling a fear in his heart that now if Draupadi gives a curse, finish, we all are done. He had that fear in his heart. So immediately Dhritarashtra, he tries to settle down the situation, and he starts telling, Duryodhana, what is this? Don't do, stop this evil deed. And he says, my ma Draupadi, my dear Draupadi, so you're such a virtuous lady, and you're so pure and chaste. uh, Please, I want to give you some benedictions. Please ask me what you want. Any favor, I'm willing to do. Please ask. So, Dhritarashtra was in the mindset that he wanted to calm down everything, because it was really turning towards the total destruction and devastation of Kuru family. It was very clear and obvious. And with all the omens coming up, Dhritarashtra had to save the whole thing, save the situation. So he proactively asked Draupadi, Draupadi, please tell me what you want. So immediately Draupadi says, please free my husband Yudhishthir Maharaj. And he says, granted, sanctioned, please ask for more. And she says, please free the rest of my husbands along with their weapons, the ayudhas, that is Arjuna's Gandhi, Bhima's Gada, and the Rathas. Please free the rest of my husbands along with their weapons. Dhritarashtra says, granted, please ask for more. And Draupadi says, I am sufficient and happy with these two. I'm a Kshatriya, and my Kshatriya lady can ask for only two benediction. She cannot ask for more than two. Saying this, Draupadi goes. She leaves. And so Yudhishthir Maharaj was freed, and all the Pancha Pandavas, all the Pandavas were freed, and all they got back all their weapons, and they were about to leave. And when they were about to leave, still, what happened after that? Duryodhana, he goes to Dhritarashtra and says, Father, what have you done with all our prowess and great planning? We have won over the Pandavas, we have enslaved them, we got their kingdom and everything. Now you foolishly gave them back everything. And Dhritarashtra said, oh, my dear foolish son, you're not knowing what is going to happen if this were to continue this way. Please stop at once what you're doing. Then Dhritarashtra says, no, I want back. I want to call back Yudhishthir Maharaj for at least one more gambling match, call him back once more. And again, he starts putting pressure on Dhritarashtra. So, helplessly again, he had to call back Yudhishthir for last final, gambling match. And Yudhishthir again, this was the heights. And actually, when Yudhishthir Maharaj was, playing the dice and staking it, especially when he was taking Draupadi, Bhima he became so furious, and he started saying that, my dear brother, now if you throw the dice, I'm going to burn your fingers. I take a vow that I'm going to burn your fingers. See, Pandavas were known for their unity. Nothing could break their unity, and there was never a period of uh, m- misunderstanding between them. And to break that very unity was the desire of the Kauravas. So, so Pandavas did everything possible by abiding by the desire of their brother Yudhishthir Maharaj. They never said a single word when they staked all of them. But when he was taking Draupadi, Bhima could not take it. He said, "I'm going to burn your fingers." And now at the end of the whole match, again, Draupadi came back, and she gave back everything. She got back everything that was lost. And again, Yudhishthir Maharaj was called back for the dice. And this time, it is like Yudhishthir Maharaj went back for playing the dice, just like how Lord Ram, knowing that the deer was a Maya deer, it is an illusory deer. There is nothing like a golden deer. He knew it was an illusory deer, and it just came about you know, for a, to do something wrong. Knowing that Lord Ram has chased after the Maya deer, because that was a destiny dragging him to that. So Yudhishthir Maharaj also understood, now this is the destiny. Now the Kuru dynasty's end is near. Now I am just being dragged into it, and I'm just an instrument. There's nothing I can do about it. So let me go and do whatever they are desiring. So he goes back again and again. He sits at the gambling match, and again he loses. And then at that, Duryodhana says, "So if you lose, you will go for vanavas, that is, you will be banished into the forest for 12 years, and then 1 year of agyatvas, where you have to be incognito for 1 year. And during the period of incognito, if we discover your identities, you have to do plus 12 more years of agyatvas, 12 more years of vanvas." So this is the rule of the game. And Yudhishthir Maharaj says, okay, and he plays and he loses. And the Pandavas were banished to the forests. So during this entire episode, when Draupadi was there in the assembly, when uh, she never uttered one single word against her husbands, against the Pandavas. This was how beautifully she has harmonized her relationships. After the whole ordeal that she went through, she was respectful all through. She had her relationship and surrender to the Supreme Lord, and at the same time, she did not break her relationship with the Pandavas. She has maintained them. She has harmonized all the relationships. This can be possible only for a great devotee. An ordinary soul cannot do this. So this was the glory of Draupadi, that she harmonized all her relationship in the light of her relationship with the Supreme Lord. So the Pandavas begin. They start off, and when they're starting off to the forest, they were when they start off to the forest, Dhritarashtra asks Sanjaya in a very curious way how they are leaving. Because he was a little. The whole assembly was shaken by the kind of vows that the Pandavas have taken. Bhishma has taken the vow of killing all the Kauravas. So they were. He was anxious. He was in anxiety. He was in fear. He was in distress. So Dhritarashtra started asking Sanjaya, how are the Pandavas leaving? How what are they feeling? So Sanjaya gives a description to Dhritarashtra. My dear king, as the Pandavas are leaving, this is how everybody seemed to be. Yudhishthir Maharaj has covered his eyes with a cloth. and you can see it in the picture. And you know, Bhima was constantly looking at both of his mighty arms, and uh, Arjuna Arjuna was, taking particles of sand and throwing them in either ways, here and there. And Dhaumya, Dhaumya is the family priest of the Pandavas. He is reciting the Yamasukta. So, what does all this mean? Everything signifies, and Nakula and Sahadev, they were not willing to show their face. What does all this signify? Everything, every gesture of the Pandavas had a significance. When Yudhishthira has closed his eyes, because he was Dharmaraj himself, the Lord of Dharma, when the anguish in his eyes, he had such anguish in his eyes that when that eyesight comes in touch with, if that eyesight falls upon any human being, he will be burnt to ashes. That is why Yudhishthir Maharaj closes his eyes. He does not let his eyesight meet any other person for their protection. And Bhima was looking at his mighty arms, saying, exhibiting that with these mighty arms, I am going to destroy Dushasan, Duryodhan, and all the Kauravas. And Arjuna, he's taking the particles of sand and throwing here and there, this, to show that a war is going to happen and arrows are going to flood like these particles of sand, and they are going to destroy the entire dynasty of Kauravas. This is what he was expressing. And Nakul and Sahadev, they were, hiding their face because they were so beautiful, and let that not be shown at these distressful times. And Dhaumya, he was reciting the Yamasukta. Yeah, what does that depict? It means in anticipation of the innumerable number of deaths that are going to happen as a result of this humiliation. Yamaraj is going to do his Tandava in future here. That is why he's reciting the Yamasukta verses. So, this was how the Pandavas have left to the forests. So when they went to the forest, at one point of time, actually, Krishna comes to visit the Pandavas. So when Krishna comes to visit the Pandavas, Draupadi starts crying. When we when do we express our grief, or our pain? With whom do we generally express? With whom we are very close to, with whom we have a very close relationship with. So Draupadi had that, close relationship with Lord Krishna. So the moment she saw Lord Krishna, she could not control her grief. She started ventilating. She started crying bitterly, and she started sobbing. And she started asking, it was a very intense atmosphere created there. She started asking Krishna, Krishna, where were you when I was crying for you? Where were you when I asked you for help? Why did you let this happen? You should have saved me. And Draupadi explains there are 4 reasons why you should save me on time. One is sambandhat. I am related to you. How? I am your Queen Kunti is your aunt, and I am her daughter-in-law. Sambandhat, because of the relationship that I share. And second reason why you should have saved me is because Gauravat, I come from a very respectable family, and my birth is, very auspicious one. I am Ayonija. I'm born from the fire. So, uh, from Gauravat, I'm worthy of respect, and also being the empress of the whole world. It is said that a woman cannot see, a woman has to be brought in the public only during the time of Swayamvara. Why am I brought out in public at that time? Any other time, she's never brought out in public. That is how women are protected and honored. By doing, she actually tells this to to the whole assembly. A woman is brought into the public only during Swayamvara and never. And if what you're doing to me this today is a disgrace to the entire women's race. This is such humiliation. So, yeah, Gauravat. So, Draupadi comes from a respectable family, and also she had such a glorious birth. So, Sambandhat, Gauravat. And Sakyat, she is the Sakhi of Lord Krishna. She's she had the relationship with Krishna that she shared is that she's a Sakhi. Krishna used to call her Sakhi. And Prabhutvat, Krishna is a master. He's the supreme master and the protector of all his devotees. For these four reasons, I deserved your protection, my dear Krishna. Why you did not come and protect me? And saying that, she starts crying and sobbing. And at this time, actually, in the reality is that Krishna did protect her by giving her the unlimited sari. But Krishna didn't say that. He is, person of a heart. The heart of the Supreme Lord is very beautiful. He's very sensitive. He could understand the agony that she was going through. So at that time, Krishna tells, I am sorry, Draupadi, I couldn't come. I was busy in the war with Shalva. So that's why I could not make it. And I really regret not being there. So here, the Supreme Lord is showing these are pastimes where Krishna is showing his human side, a human emotion. And this is such a beautiful and loving reciprocation to Draupadi, that he did not start giving philosophy that, this is destiny, it is meant to happen, instrument. No. He what Krishna, in the way Krishna reciprocated, is such a perfect reciprocation, such a beautiful reciprocation of the Supreme Lord. Krishna himself expressing his inability is, it's a hallmark of his pastimes. So that's the beauty of the pastime here. So, and Krishna tells, but Draupadi, please do remember, whoever has made you cry, whoever has made you cry in that sabha, I'm going to destroy every one of them. Every one of them is going to be dead. He says that, and this is the vow of Vasudeva Krishna. Let the Himalayan mountains be, powdered into small particles. Let the sun be risen on the other side, and let any extreme happen in nature. But the vow of Vasudeva Krishna will never go in vain. If they surrender, it's a different thing. But whoever has made you cry on that day, no one will remain. Everyone will be perished. Take this as my vow. And saying this, Krishna gives assurance to Draupadi. And true to that, actually, everybody, in fact, the Pandavas were also being, silent there. They were also supposed to die because they were present in that sabha. So, but, it did not happen because Draupadi's Mangalya, the power of her dedication towards her husband, because they were all her husbands, they were spared. They were not killed. But other than that, everybody were killed in the Kurukshetra war. Because, especially these four, the four Dushta Chatushtaya, the Duryodhana, Dushasana, Karna and Shakuni, they had such a evil fate they met with. And all the others who were all passive witnesses to the whole adharma that was going on, they also perished in an unprecedented way. So because just to be a passive witness means you're also part of the game. In front of you, what was going on is such a great adharma. See, the Pandavas, they were seeing Draupadi as, their wife. That, and they were struck in that, they were caught up in that ambiguity of, okay, she's our wife and, she can be staked. And she's, when she's humiliated, she's the slave of the Kauravas. But not for a moment did they think that here is Draupadi, she's a devotee of the Lord. And she's a woman who has to be protected. And that is the highest dharma. When a devotee of the Lord is subjected to any pain, nectar of, there are so many injunctions in the Shastras that, when Vaishnavas are or devotees of the Lord are subjected to any pain, if you're a Brahmana, you have to defeat with your, verbal skill. If you're a Kshatriya, you have to cut off their tongue. And this is for verbal violence. And what was happening there was not just a verbal assault, but it's a character assassination. It was such humiliation. They should have jumped into action right then and there. But they did not see her in that identity. They were stuck in an identity of their wife. So in that way, the whole SM, and great dharmajnas like Bhishma, who was the knower of Brihaspati Niti, the Shukra Niti, who was a disciple of Parshuram, who he did not do anything. He was just silent. He was silently crying. And Drona, he was such a powerful personality that he had the power to kill his opponents by shastrat and shapa. With his shastra and with his shapa, he can kill with anybody whom he wants to kill with his shastra, with a weapon, or with his shapa. We had the power of both a brahmana and a kshatriya, and he was sitting quiet there. He didn't say anything, just head hung in shame and crying. So they were all passive witnesses of all the humiliation that Draupadi went through, and none of them reacted. And Draupadi finally saved herself because of her devotion to the Lord. So that's why Krishna gives her the assurance: whoever was a part of this thing, whoever has made you cry, Draupadi, all of them are going to perish. So we all speak about, women's empowerment, right? So here is Draupadi, who was trying to stand by dharma even amidst such trying situation, which we can never even think of what was the amount of tribulation that Draupadi had ever gone through. It is said in the whole history, nobody was ever subjected to such humiliation. She's the empress. What is the honor that is given to an empress? For example, our Queen Elizabeth, when the first lady Obama has come, to India, what respect they gave her. And Draupadi she's the empress of the whole world. What respect she deserves. Such a lady who deserves such respect and who has to be treated as a mother, she was subjected to such, terrible humiliation never heard of. So at this time, what was it that truly empowered Draupadi? So Draupadi came and told Krishna, where were you when I was in distress, when I was crying? So Krishna said, I am sorry, I could not come. So who protected Draupadi? Question. Who protected Draupadi? Who gave her the sari? Krishna is saying, I am sorry, I could not come. I was fighting with Shalva. So who protected Draupadi? And who gave her the sari? So the answer to this is the holy name protected Draupadi. So the holy name is limitless in giving its mercy. Krishna also has limitations as an avatar. He can present himself only in certain situations at a certain place and time. But holy name is limitless. It can manifest its mercy. It can manifest its protection in any condition. That is the glory of holy name. And Draupadi has taken shelter of that holy name, which has given her such protection. So that is the glory of the holy name. That is, it has no limitations when it has to bestow its protection to a devotee. There is a beautiful verse of King Kulashekar Alvar about the glory of the holy name. Vyamoha prasamaushadam munimano vritti pravrityaushadam daityendratikaraushadam bhavabhaya pradvamsanaikaushadam bhaktatyantahitaushadam bhavabhaya pradvamsanaikaushadam Shreya Praptikaraushadam Pibamana Sri Krishna Divyaushadam. So Vyamoha Prasamaushadam. Krishna's holy name it delivers one from Vyamoha, from all illusions. Bhavavaya Munimano Vritti Pravrityaushadam. It gives all happiness and pleasure to the muni mana, to the minds of the sages. Daityendrati karaushadam. Daitya, to all the demons, it makes them flee in fear. Daityendrati, they flee in fear by hearing the holy name of Krishna. And bhavabhaya pradvamsanai kaushadam. Bhavabhaya, it can actually The medicine of holy name can destroy all the fear of the material existence. Shreya prapti karaushadam. It gives all great fortune. Bhaktyantya hitaushadam. For the devotees, it gives all auspiciousness. And Pibamana Sri Krishna Divyaushadam. King Kulashekar Alvar is telling his mind, oh mind, just drink the holy name of Krishna. So holy name is everything. It comes to your protection, to your rescue at times when nobody, even Krishna himself in his personal form, cannot come and do. So the holy name of Krishna is everything, all powerful. Namna makari bahuda nija sarva shaktis tatrarpita niyamita smaranena kala. So Nija Sarva Shakti, the Krishna has invested the holy name with all his potencies. Tatrarpita niyamata smaranena kala. There are no hard and fast rules when a person can utter this holy name. So that is the power of holy name. One can utter the holy name in any condition and it comes and rescues you. And Draupadi is exemplifying this surrender and the reciprocation of the holy name. So that is actually a true women's empowerment. When nobody could help her, neither the powerful Pandavas, who are the greatest heroes of all the three worlds, the strongest Kshatriyas in all the three worlds, they could not protect her. Bhishma Dev, he is such a great personality, he could not protect her. Drona, Kripacharya, none of them could protect her at the time of real need. So what actually protected her? What actually empowered her? Her devotion empowered her. What protected her? Krishna protected her. This is true women's empowerment. We hear so much about women's empowerment these days, but truly what can really empower them is their inner devotion to the highest power. That is true empowerment of women. So thank you very much. I had actually lots more to speak about, but running out of time. It's already 7:20. So I will end here. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Grantraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai.